So, a medieval game with realistic combat, warfare, techniques, HEMA-inspired fighting. My goodness, bring it on! Hello number ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking. So, we have got a lot of things to say. Well, first off, I'd like to say that I'm really excited for this game, Mordhau. I think it's pronounced. To me, just right off the bat, I'd like to say that to me, this game sounds like the real evolution of Mount & Blade that we have been expecting for, gosh, how many years? I mean, think about it. We played Mount & Blade and we really liked it. It was really good, but of course it's becoming an older game, isn't it? And with time, another war game which featured combat and medieval battles came out, and it was of course Chivalry. Now, Chivalry, yes, it was good. It was similar to Mount & Blade in a way, but if you think about it, I mean, how many people, and perhaps even you yourself, I mean, how many people started playing Chivalry and then went back to good old Mount & Blade? But how does that happen? Well, with video games, in my experience, I have to say that although the graphics are very important, they are not the most important thing. In fact, to me, Chivalry, although it was, yes, a good game, I enjoyed it, I played it, but it looked like a graphical improvement of Mount & Blade, but in terms of gameplay, there was something missing. I mean, you couldn't ride your horse, and for some reasons, Mount & Blade gave me more a feeling of being in a real battle than Chivalry, for whatever reason. So I did end up actually stopping playing Chivalry and go back to Mount & Blade and download all the several mods that you can get that actually made the game rather interesting. But Mordhau, this, I believe, and I think I can say with confidence, even if I haven't played the game still, but I think the trailer that we will watch together in this video already helps us understand quite well that Mordhau is what we were expecting in a follow-up, an evolution of Mount & Blade. It's what probably Chivalry should have been. What I'm trying to say is that, again, yes, Chivalry had better graphics, but in terms of gameplay, perhaps gameplay sometimes was even less complex or less interesting than Mount & Blade, considering the fact that Mount & Blade had, for example, as I said, mounted combat, whereas Chivalry didn't. But Mordhau seems to get everything just right. You've got charge with the lance. In fact, that is my favorite part in the whole trailer, the part where you actually get to be a mounted knight and smash the motherfucker in the head, excusing my French, and that feels like I'm a freaking knight, you know what I'm saying? And it's good, and so that's fine. But what's really interesting is the fighting techniques. It looks a lot like HEMA. It's not a HEMA simulator, they said that, but I think it's quite obvious that they are taking inspiration from HEMA and HEMA techniques, which I think is a really good thing. Now you see, I have a lot of experience with video games, but I don't have a lot of experience in HEMA. I have a little bit of experience in HEMA, meaning that I have trained with HEMA people, but I don't have a club here. So I would like to hear an expert on this. I'd like to see what Matt Easton from Schola Gladiatoria thinks, considering he's a veteran and a teacher of HEMA. So how can I do this? Hold on a minute. There we go. I think this looks like him, should work for summoning. Let's see. Hello, Matt?
Hello? Hello? Oh, whoa, hey man, it's you. So yeah, you wanted to know 3 things I really liked about this this trailer. So I have to be honest. So first of all, I like it as a game. It looks fun. Okay, so just taking all of the kind of historical accuracy and whether the weapons are behaving the right way, if we take that all completely out of it, this looks like a fun game. And ultimately, with a video game, that's what you want most, isn't it? Okay, so number 1, I have to say, I love the fact that it looks fun. It's too easy, in fact, to make a game that is just really dry and boring. Okay, so this looks fun. Second thing I liked was the actual armour and the way that it was modelled. It looked really, really cool. Now, I did mention previously on my video that essentially I didn't like that they mixed different periods. So you see 13th century armour and 15th century armour in the same kind of frame, and that kind of, I don't like that. But if we just ignore that point for a minute, if you just look at the individual armours, if you just look at the kind of, you know, late 13th century knight, for example, with the great helm and the mail, it looks fantastic. It looks really, really good. And equally, I would say the weapons themselves are modelled well. They don't look like fantasy weapons, they look like actual weapons. So that's my number 2. Yes, I really, really like how that looks. And my number 3 has to be the fact that there are castles in it. And you know, I don't talk about castles enough, but I probably should talk about castles more, and I do plan to. But the fact that you've got this these buildings to kind of fight around. So, you know, when I'm playing a game like Mount and Blade or something like this, one of the things I actually enjoy the most is using the environment tactically. So not just being like an arena battle, but actually fighting in groups and using the environment to gain ground and hold ground and this kind of stuff. So it looks, obviously I haven't played this game yet, but it looks like this game has or will do that, and I really hope so. I really hope that it will use the environment, because fighting isn't just about one-on-one or isn't just about group versus group. It's also about uphill, downhill, walls, windows, doors. You know, it's about using the environment to your maximum advantage and letting your team kind of overwhelm the opponents using the natural advantages around them. So there we go. Hope that's of interest, and chat to you soon.
Alright, Matt Easton, thank you so much for your help. We did manage to have a little bit of a chat on Skype, and I think he brings up some really interesting points. If you want to hear more about what he has to say about Mordhau, please go check out his channel right now, because we uploaded together at the same time, simultaneously, so you can hear what he has to say after perhaps watching my video. And because we had a little Skype conversation about Mordhau, and we both had interesting points of view, which could be considered complementary to each other video, so check out Schola Gladiatoria's video on Mordhau. And of course, as game developers, they have to find a proper balance, that right sweet spot where the gameplay in terms of the fighting mechanics is historically reasonable, and it can please people who are into historical European martial arts, but at the same time it needs to be fun. It needs to take into consideration game mechanics, how quickly you can react using your gameplay or whatever mouse and keyboard that you're using. There are a lot of things, you know, because if it becomes too much of a simulator, it might not be fun to play at the end of the day. So of course they need to find a good in between, but I think they managed to ameliorate the situation, the gameplay mechanics, making it much more like HEMA, but at the same time keeping it fluid and interesting. And what's interesting also is the fact that we have seen in the latest generation of games, whether it be Neo, whether it be For Honor, we have noticed this introduction of the idea of, you know, switching stances when you fight, but this game doesn't do just that. It's not just a matter of you switch stances so that it looks more similar to actual real combat, but then the way they attack, the way they strike, or the way you chain attacks, it's, you know, it's completely fantasy. Which is basically the situation with Neo and For Honor. No, this game actually has got good, believable, interesting fighting mechanics. So, for example, you've got a whole system of parrying that I find particularly interesting, excuse me. So the idea is you click the right mouse button and you perform a parry. But you also have to direct it to the right, you know, to where the attack is coming from. So if you parry high, but the attack is coming low, it's not going to work. So that's really cool. Then once you perform an actual parry, you can do a riposte, and if in your opponent, he can again parry and riposte, and there can be a whole exchange, which is rather interesting. Also, they said that you can switch grips. So you can, for example, you can do half swording. You can you know, grab the sword from the blade and perform murder strokes. You can flip. For example, warhammers and pole arms, pole weapons to attack using the other side. And I think all of this is fantastic, but my question is, how are they going to implement, it's basically what I said in the little part where I talk about this in Matt Easton's video on on Schola Gladiatoria channel. How are they going to implement the murder stroke and half swording? Because in the video, the way it looks as if when you half sword or when you do the murder stroke, I don't know, it seems like they are doing it against an unarmored opponent. So, you know, they said that they are going to implement the fact that if you slash and if you cut someone in full armor, it's going to deal less damage. That's fine. And a warhammer or a mace, so blunt weapons, actually work better against someone in armor, like impact weapons. And that's fantastic. This is all impressive. So my question is changing the grip in your sword actually going to, yeah, this is sharp, but don't worry, if you do it properly, it's not going to cut me. Is this going to change, make your weapon more effective against armor? I hope so, because if not, if it's just a matter of, you know, changing the way you attack, if it's just a matter of like a skin, then no, I think that will be a waste. So my suggestion to the developers of the game, if they haven't done it already, is that the idea of switching into half swording or the murder stroke should be something that you do basically against someone in full armor. But if your opponent is not in full armor, it's something that if you do, it shouldn't really make much sense. I mean, you can do it if you want. If you just want to, you know, taunt your opponent, it's like, hey, I smashed you in the head, and that sort of thing. But you know, it should be something that the game rewards you if you do it against someone in full armor. I think it's a great thing that they are implementing this, but they need to do it just right. And up to now, I think they have found a good in-between, a good balance, but they do need to get this right, the half swording and these sort of techniques. And also they said you can customize the grip, you can customize everything, the hilt. That is cool, but is it just a matter of the, you know, the skin, like how it looks, or having longer quillons or thicker quillons is going to help me with in-game mechanics to make my parries more effective, or to maybe increase a little bit the area of that I can cover with my parries? That could be interesting. Or perhaps, I don't know, how maybe it's going to require less stamina if I have a better hilt to parry. That could be interesting. That could be interesting. So these are the questions I have. I'm really excited for this game. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm also excited to see what you think about this game. But please let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to go watch and check out Schola Gladiatoria's take and what he has to say on this trailer on Schola Gladiatoria channel, Matt Easton. And thank you very much for watching, and remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye.